In this era of Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime, when you can stream almost any movie you want, I wonder how many of you still go to the movie theater. If you go, and the movie starts at 7:15, for example, does it start at 7:15?
No, 7:35.
Not a chance. It will not start until about 7:35 or so, because there's going to be a bunch of trailers or previews. I think you guys all know what I'm talking about. A preview is a short glimpse of a movie that's going to be coming out in the coming months, or perhaps even the following year. But the purpose of those things are to whet your appetite for the story, make you curious, confuse you, energize you. It may spotlight a famous actor that you like that allows you to possibly give the movie a chance because you like that person. A preview, though, has to make their case statement in a hurry, trying to get you to support it mentally right then and there, so down the road you might support it at the box office. You know, when Frances and I go to the movies, we'll watch the previews. And as one ends, she'll automatically say out loud, "No way." You know, maybe, or DVD, which shows you we're getting older. But she votes. We vote. More and more, it's no way to most of them. But in our story today, Peter, James, and John have been following Jesus for some time. They've been journeying with him, learning, observing. They've had the opportunity to ask him many questions. They've been appointed to help him out, to minister in daily life. They've made mistakes, but they've also realized they've been having some impact. They don't always get Jesus, though, however. He kind of puzzles them at times. But today, the three of them are taken away from the crowds by themselves, taken up a mountain, and treated to sort of a sneak preview of sorts. According to them, and obviously they would have relayed this story somewhere along the line, according to them, Jesus was praying, and the disciples were like I am sometimes at the movies, starting to fall asleep. They're sort of in this half-awake phase. And in that phase, something jolted them that helped them to understand Jesus a bit better. They somehow saw or sensed that there was all of a sudden something similar between Jesus and two very, very towering figures in Israel's past, Moses and Elijah. Moses, the one who led Israel from slavery to freedom, and Elijah, one of the greatest prophets who called Israel to greater faithfulness. Both of them, though, were tremendous liberators, people who pushed Israel into their next chapters, exciting chapters in their story. And on the mountain, these three disciples had a realization that their mentor, Jesus, was going to be just as significant, if not more significant, than Moses and Elijah. New chapters awaited. And Jesus had been talking to them somewhat about a significant act in Jerusalem that was going to happen in the coming days. They didn't fully get it, but it seemed that all of a sudden they were going to be on high alert because they knew they were soon going to Jerusalem. And as they described it to Luke, on that mountaintop, they had a sense that they really, really were called to listen to him in a greater way in the days to come. The Greek word for listen means pay attention, accompany, to be a companion, to do as Jesus does. And so that's a bit of the preview they got on that mountaintop. The three seem ready to hear the rest of the story. They clearly vote, yep, let's see what happens next. So they head down this Mount of Transfiguration, the next verses that I did not read today. But there they're met by great crowds, people eager to talk to Jesus. Not necessarily to the three of them, they want to talk to Jesus. One man comes up to him and pleads his case. His son had epilepsy, which left him on occasion unable to control himself. There was this power beyond himself that would take over his body. He'd shake and be agitated and start foaming at the mouth. He simply could not control it. He was powerless. Such attacks would knock him down, knock the wind out of him, could not control it. His father pleaded for Jesus to help him and to heal him. And then he added the important statement, your disciples could not help him. They didn't have the power. Possibly they were unwilling to help him. For Jesus, this boy has more than just a health problem. It's more than just a health issue. A person with epilepsy in that day would have been seen as unclean. Their view of disease at that time was you were punished for some reason that may or may not be able to be explained. But the key reality is, if you were in such a condition, you would not be allowed to be part of the everyday community. You would have been cut off, ostracized, excluded from the religious community. That father begged the disciples while Jesus was up on the top of the mountain, please remove these impediments that are keeping my son not only from being healed, but from being welcomed. The father is asking for his son to be blessed, not cursed. Father is asking for his son to be welcomed and included. And for whatever reason, it was a struggle for the disciples to bear witness to that family. So Jesus takes this personally, and he takes action. He calls this young man forward. Calls him forward, and as he comes forward, he goes into an epileptic convulsion once more. He's again shaken and agitated by forces beyond his control. And the disciples there, the crowd there, they're watching to see what happens next. And it says in Greek, Jesus epidemao, which means Jesus rebuked. He censures severely those forces that hold this boy back from being made whole. But what you need to see is he does not rebuke or point fingers at the boy. He's angry at the forces and the people that impede his inclusion. As the story goes on, Jesus takes the young man, he restores him, he blesses him, then gives him back to his father, and in a sense gives him back to the community and says, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? But it's clear. Jesus has done something very, very powerful and transforming, not only for the boy, but for that community as well. Christians, you and I, we need to remember the great power of art. Okay? Art. Some of the greatest art pieces in Christian history are mosaics. And remember what a mosaic is. A mosaic artist is a person who finds broken pieces of glass and pottery and tile, any sort of material, and they treat them as precious objects. They see a broken piece, and they say this can be part of something beautiful and something wholly new. A mosaic artist is willing to get their hands dirty, pick up broken and discarded pieces, and with grout and other sorts of materials, fashion a brand new piece of art that some could not possibly imagine. But they are artists. They are masters at seeing the value when other people see junk. If there was ever a mosaic artist, it was Jesus, the one that we follow. Jesus was, when others saw brokenness and people that could be discarded, Jesus saw incredible beauty and incredible value. He took them and said, you are precious, you belong, let me work with you and include you in my community. If we listen to Jesus, you and I, we can become mosaic artists ourselves. Because you and I, we recognize the brokenness in the world around us. We recognize that far too many people deal with forces and people that do not want to welcome them. We acknowledge there are many, many forces that keep people from being included. But you and I, we can be people of hope. We can do something to represent. We can represent Jesus as the people of Good Shepherd in this community. You know, as we hear news, as we hear stories of exclusion, we hear it far too often. We must realize that you and I, we're called to be a mosaic church of radical hospitality and inclusion. We are all broken pieces. As I turn 50, I recognize I am still broken. I am still broken. But thanks be to God, Jesus puts you and I together in our baptism and assembles us together in a powerful and inspiring way for the world to see. We are called here at Good Shepherd in this community to be a mosaic church. A mosaic church is a beautiful piece of art for others to admire and be a part of. Mosaic church proclaims all are welcome in this place. A mosaic church, we recognize We welcome those who feel 100% devout and fully on board with Jesus. At the same time, we welcome those who aren't so sure about Jesus and this journey called faith. But we all belong together. You belong to us. We welcome those born here in the United States, as well as those who've come from other places in this world. You belong with us. We welcome those of every skin tone and every language. You belong with us. We welcome those who are LGBTQ. It's important to say you belong with us. We welcome the young, the old, and some of us who are kind of in that in-between phase right now. But you belong to us. You are the beloved of God. In humility, a Mosaic church acknowledges our lack of perfection. None of us is all together. Yet together, there's this amazing thing that happens. We become this grand mosaic of God. And so countless others need to hear that message. We as a church, we recognize that our mosaic here is a piece of work in progress. It's not finished. There's a lot more people that need to be welcomed and included by you and I. A lot more need to realize they are the beloved of God, loved by God, but also loved by us. Amen.